This national news edition originates from VK1WIA and is rebroadcast throughout Australia and around the world under a common licence published on the WIA website. This WIA national news service is copyright to the Wireless Institute of Australia, and rebroadcast is authorised only under the provisions of that common licence. WIA Director and Company Secretary Peter Cleave, VK8ZZ.
From Australia, this is the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
In WIA National News this week, Pete Cherry, VK2LP, WIA Returning Officer, Peter Cleave, VK8ZZ, WIA Secretary, Scott Williams, VK3KJ, WIA Director and President. A few WIA news broadcasts ago, Alan, VK2COD, was looking for Santa. Well, he's a happy chappy, as he reveals in his Youth on the Air segment today. VK2SANTA has made contact. But wait, there's more, much more, in this edition of news from the Wireless Institute of Australia for week commencing Sunday, December 7, 2025. I'm Editor Graham, VK4BB.
This is VK1WIA. All points of contacts from today's news stories are to be found in print when you read the web editions, www.wia.org.au.
This is WIA Director and President Scott Williams, VK3KJ, and welcome to the WIA broadcast this week. This week, the Australian Communications and Media Authority, ACMA, released a communique titled Youth Access to ACMA Assist. In summary, the ACMA Assist verification system required new users to use My ID to verify their identity. However, unfortunately, a person under the age of 15 is ineligible to set up a digital ID and therefore cannot create an ACMA Assist account. What this means is a new amateur radio operator under 15 years of age must submit a manual application for an ACMA recognition certificate or call sign. ACMA state that once the manual application forms are completed and submitted via email to info@acma.gov.au, an invoice will be emailed. When paid, the recognition certificate will be issued and the call sign application processed. ACMA also stated that they recommend children use a unique email address that is not associated to another person's ACMA Assist account. Also this week, in the same communique, the ACMA made minor changes to the amateur radio operating procedures. This included adding new text about the amateur band plan, removing text about third-party traffic because it was inconsistent with the Radio Communications Amateur Station Class Licence 2023, and removed an obsolete reference to entertainment. Also, just a reminder to all affiliated clubs, the last affiliated clubs webinar for the year will take place on Sunday, the 7th of December at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Club presidents or representatives of the club are invited to the webinar, which will be held online. Invitations have already gone out. However, if you wish to attend, please email Company Secretary Peter Clee on secretary@wia.org.au. That's it for me this week. And this has been Scott Williams, WIA President, for this week's WIA news broadcast on behalf of the WIA Board. Best wishes.
Thanks, Scott. Landslides and flooding are currently devastating parts of Asia, and human losses are in the vicinity of several hundred already. Here is WIA Secretary Peter Clee, VK8ZZ, with a message from sister organisations here in Region 3.
Thanks, Graham. There has been some devastating floods in the Southeast Asia, And unlike Australia, there are many countries that do not have formal emergency services organisations equipped with HF radio frequencies to coordinate flood efforts. Amateur radio is used extensively in Asia to assist flood efforts, and currently there are operations being undertaken in Indonesia, Sri Lanka and Malaysia. Amateurs are requested to keep clear of working frequencies being used to coordinate emergency operations in Asia. Extensive use is being made of 40 metres, and amateurs are requested to be mindful of these operations. The following frequencies are currently being used. On 40 metres, 7110 MHz, 7100 MHz and 7060 MHz. On 20 metres, it's 14300 MHz, and on 15 metres, it's 21360 MHz. Amateurs are asked to avoid these frequencies and move any regular nets or skeds over the next few weeks until emergency operations are being wound up. These operations have been authorised by the respective governments of the affected areas.
Hello everyone. As you may recall, last month I put out a call for the nominations as a director of the WIA. This month I will do the same. Pursuant to the Constitution of the Wireless Institute of Australia, the board has determined that election of directors shall be conducted by ballot. Nominations were opened on the 9th of November 2025. 3 directors retire at the conclusion of next AGM, which will be held in May 2026. The retiring directors are Lee Moyle, VK3GK, Steve Green, VK2TSG, and Chris Dimitrovic, VK3FY. Each retiring director is eligible for re-election. Nominations are called from persons seeking election as a director of the WIA. A director must be a voting member of the WIA, must hold an Australian amateur radio license, and a company director identification number. Any person wishing to nominate as a candidate for election as a director of the WIA must deliver or cause to be delivered to the returning officer by no later than 2:30 p.m. on 16 December 2025, a nomination form which is available on the WIA website and at the link in the text edition of this broadcast, or by telephoning the national office. Candidate information will be posted online and emailed to members. Members are requested to ensure that their email address is correctly recorded on the WIA membership register. Nominations received by facsimile or by electronic means cannot be accepted. This has been Pete Cherry, VK2LP, WIA Returning Officer.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello. In the US, the National Transportation Safety Board is investigating the mid-air collision in late October between a United Airlines flight and a lightweight weather balloon over Moab, Utah, which left the pilot injured and prompted an emergency landing at Salt Lake City. According to a report on the KOMO TV News website, the Boeing 737 was flying at 36,002 feet when it crossed paths with a high-altitude balloon from Windborne Systems of Palo Alto, California. A statement on the Windborne Company website said that the incident was the only mid-air impact in the company's record of more than 4,000 launches. Media reports said the captain's right arm suffered minor cuts, and some of the flight crew members were hit by glass from the first officer's shattered windshield. No cabin pressure was lost and the plane landed safely without further incident. New Zealand Radio Spectrum Management has published a new wireless electronic countermeasure prohibition notice in the New Zealand Gazette. WECM devices are designed to block or interfere with radio, mobile or GPS signals, including equipment commonly referred to as cell phone or GPS jammers. These devices can disrupt emergency communications, compromise public safety, and interfere with critical national infrastructure. Under the Radio Communications Regulations 2001, it remains illegal to manufacture, import, sell, supply or use WECM equipment in New Zealand unless the individual or organisation is recognised as a permitted person. The updated Gazette notice provides clearer and more current definitions of prohibited equipment to support industry understanding and compliance. Whether you're a new ham or someone who's been on the air for quite some time, it's still nice to have an advocate. The Radio Society of Great Britain is looking for just that person. A volunteer with a special devotion to helping radio operators with disabilities. We hear more from Newsline's Jeremy Boot, Golf 4 November Juliet Hotel.
Having a disability of any kind should not keep an amateur or would-be amateur off the air. Recognising this, the RSGB is seeking someone to fill a new volunteer role as accessibility champion. The best candidate will raise public awareness of challenges for radio operators with disabilities while connecting those amateurs with community groups, assistive technologies and other resources. The RSGB's move comes just a few weeks after the IARU Region 1 announced an upcoming activity by its Programme for Disabled Radio Amateurs. Organisers have declared a region-wide campaign on the 3rd of December in connection with the United Nations International Day of Persons with Disabilities. HAMs have been encouraged to host a special event station, an open house or a relevant educational forum. Meanwhile, the RSGB is interested in hearing from candidates to fill their post. A description of the role can be found on the Society's website, rsgb.org. The contact person is Board Director Nathan Nuttall, to Mike 0 Oscar Charlie Charlie. This is Jeremy Bucci for NJH.
The Amateur Radio Association of Bangladesh has been given a grant from the Yasmi Foundation to support its university-based campaign that has been bringing amateur radio to the next generation. In July, the association spent time with students at the University of Liberal Arts in Bangladesh, working in collaboration with the school's Adventure Club. Other campus visits included the Canadian University of Bangladesh and ZNRF University, where the students were able to experience satellite communication. In October, Stanford University Bangladesh welcomed the Amateur Club. With the help of the school's Robotics Club and the IEEE student branch, the amateurs presented a workshop that showcased fundamentals of RF, satellite communication and disaster response. The not-for-profit California-based Yasmi Foundation supports initiatives that bring amateur radio to young people, especially in developing nations, by providing grants, awards and scholarships. The US Federal Communications Commission has announced that the government will be collecting a payment from an unlicensed radio operator in Massachusetts, settling an enforcement case from last year. The operator of a pirate radio station in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, has agreed to pay $7,200 to the US Treasury as part of a consent decree with the FCC. The FCC said that the radio operator had been broadcasting on 93.1 FM without a license. The payment, which is part of his consent decree, was substantially reduced from the agency's original proposed forfeiture of $40,000, which it sought in 2024 in a notice of apparent liability. The accused at the time responded to the notice and told the FCC he was not able to pay the amount. An FCC review of his finances resulted in an alternative solution, a consent decree in which he admitted to his illegal broadcasts and made a commitment to make the voluntary contribution specified. Weird and wonderful. Any radio amateur will tell you about the spectre of TVI, of their transmissions being inadvertently demodulated by the smallest of non-linearity in the neighbouring antenna systems, and spewing forth from speakers of all and sundry. It's very much a thing that the most unlikely of circuits can function as radio receivers. But teeth? Going through a series of news reports over the decades, including one of Lucille Ball uncovering a hidden Japanese spy transmitter, it's something all experts who have looked at the issue have concluded there is little evidence for. It was also investigated by Mythbusters. but it's an alluring tale. So, is it entirely fabricated? What we can say is that teeth are sensitive to sound. Not in themselves, but because the jaw provides a good path bringing vibrations to the region of the ear. And it's certainly possible that the active chemical environment surrounding a metal filling in a patient's mouth could give rise to electrical non-linearities. But could a human body, in an ordinary RF environment, act as a good enough antenna to provide enough energy for something to happen? We have our doubts. It's a perennial story, even in fiction. It's likely they're more in the mind than in the mouth. If not, then we might have missed a radio phenomenon. For WIA National News, in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
We are VK1WIA. Now, operational news with VK4FUQ. Felix.
Hello there. Have you been thinking testing is starting to be a little too real? I noticed a couple of posts for those who are operating in last weekend's biggie, the CQWWDX contest. Operators noticing dirty, clicky CW this weekend should take pictures of spectrum waterfalls. Make note of frequency, call sign, and time, and pass those details to the CQWW contact form. Also, seems to be a growing trend with many high-scoring stations to submit their logs at the last minute. At the very least, the optics for this behaviour are poor and folk are taking notice. You'll note that time, date stamps are now being reported on the logs received page. This weekend, December 5 to 7, here's the running of the ARRL 160m CW contest. This for amateurs worldwide to exchange information with W/VE amateurs on 160m CW. As with each and every contest you take part in, make sure your logging software is up to date before the contest so that it will accept these QSOs. Contest period. Begin 2200 hours UTC Friday, ends 1559 hours UTC Sunday. This is a 42-hour period with no time limitation. Also this weekend, December 6 to 7, is the 2025 CalBar DX contest. The CalBar contest is held by OR-ARI West Kalimantan region, coinciding with the 39th anniversary of OR-ARI West Kalimantan region in 2025. Indonesian radio amateurs are expected to make as many contacts as possible with stations from within and outside the country using all our bands 80, 40, 20, 15, 10 metres. Yoda Contest December. The Fisher's Coast Amateur Radio Club are hosting the inaugural VK Yoda Contest the entire month of December. Go to the Fisher's Coast webpage for all the details. Now let's open the DX window to the world. Data. VU2 DSI is active as AU2 JCB until the 15th of December to commemorate the birthday of Indian physicist and radio pioneer Jagadish Chandra Bose. Listen for activity using SSB on the 80, 40, 20, 15 and 10 meter bands. QSL directly to data's home call, which again is VU2 DSI. Gabriel HB9 TSW is active as Z68BG from Slatina Air Base near Pristina, Kosovo, until the 10th of December. He is operating using CW only. QSL via Logbook of the World, EQSL, or via his home call. Members of the YO3 KOM Radio Club are running a Christmas special event until 31st December with 3 special call signs. YO0HOHO, Yo Ho Ho Ho, YO0XMAS, Yo Ho Christmas, and YR0 UDOLPH, Yep, Rudolph. QSLs via YO3GND. Certificates are available. See QRZ.com for the details. Celebrating the 70th anniversary of the organisation, members of the International Police Association Swiss branch will be active as HB70 IPA until 31 December. Activity will be on various HF bands and the QO100 satellite. QSL via LOTW and EQSL. For WIA National News, I'm Felix, VK4FUQ, Inningham.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now, special interest group news with Bruce, VK3FFF.
And a very good day to you. Worldwide special interest groups computing. You've probably used Google's operating systems before. Android holds a dominant market share in the smartphone space, and Chrome OS is readily available on a large range of notebooks intended for lightweight tasks. Going forward, it appears Google aims to leverage its experience with these products and merge them into something new under the working title of Aluminium OS, or I'm sure over there, Aluminum OS. At this stage, it appears Google will target everything from cheaper entry-level hardware to mid-market and premium machines. It's early days yet, and there's no word as to when Google might speak more officiously on the topic of its new operating system. It's a big move from one of the largest tech companies out there. Even still, it'll be a tall order for Google to knock off the stalwart offerings from Microsoft and Apple in any meaningful way. Worldwide special interest groups, final frontier. The University of California, Davis will fly its RealOp 2U CubeSat mission with two goals in mind. The primary goal of the mission will be to provide students with the educational opportunity to design, build, and test a satellite. Students will learn about the use of amateur radio and how to use RF in order to communicate with spacecraft. The secondary goal of the mission is to demonstrate the feasibility of using hard disk drives as a low-cost alternative to reaction wheels for CubeSat attitude detection and control. This has the potential to reduce the financial barrier of entry into CubeSat development. A UHF GMSK downlink with a 96 kHz symbol rate on 437.400 MHz is proposed. Telemetry packets will use HDLC framing and a rate 1/2 convolutional forward error correction. Deployment from the ISS is planned for June 2026. And a group of students at Cornell University is seeking participation from radio amateurs who are equipped with satellite stations for helping in listening for signals from a retroreflective laser sail. The sail is currently attached to a 1U CubeSat that was launched early Tuesday, December 2nd, from the International Space Station, but will separate and become its own free-flying spacecraft equipped with 4 tiny chipset flight computers that will transmit telemetry data back to Earth. This is the first flight of their chipsats, and it is this data that the students seek help detecting, according to PhD candidate Joshua Umansky Castro, call sign KD2WTQ. The light sails chipsats will be transmitting data using the LoRa digital protocol on 437.400 MHz. Additional information, including LoRa parameters and links to a list of compatible receivers and the decoder file, may be found at alphacubesat.cornell.edu in the Chipsat Ground Station Guide. Worldwide special interest groups, IOTA. OC reminders. OC047, H44MS, Malaita Island in the Solomons. Bernard, H44MS, will be active from Manakwai village nearby Maluru, northern Malaysia Island, covering the period next year from January 25th to April 10th. And OC66, TX9XG, Rangiroa Atoll. Haru, JA1XGI, has announced that he will be active from Rangiroa Atoll, French Polynesia, OC066, as TX9XG during April 1st to 8th, 2026. He plans to QRV on 40 to 10 metres, CW, SSB, RTTY and FT8 using the new IC7300 Mark II. QSL TX9XG via Haru's home call, JA1XGI, using OQRS Club Log. Worldwide special interest groups, maritime. When applicable, we often make mention of special event calls from the USA's Maritime Historical Society, the MRHS. This group was formed some 26 years ago, July 12, 1999 to be precise. That was the date of the supposed last commercial Morse transmission in the United States. On that day, Tom Horsfall and Richard Dillman resolved that the tradition of commercial maritime Morse could not be relegated to the dustbin of history. With that in mind, they visited the KPH transmit and receive sites California, then closed for 2 years, and they were amazed to find not the vandalized sites they expected, but instead an intact radio time capsule. Radio receivers still on, maintaining a watch on the Morse calling channels. Their mission became instantly clear. They should form an organisation to repair, restore and operate KPH as a way to honour the men and women who for 100 years had made the profession of radio telegrapher one of honour and skill. Since then, the MRHS has succeeded beyond what Tom and Richard thought possible in their wildest dreams. Not only has KPH returned to the air, but so has KSM, KFS and K6KPH. This has been possible only through the efforts of the dozen or more volunteers who make up the MRHS and who feel honoured to contribute to the mission. Worldwide special interest groups, radio amateur young timers, YOTA, youngsters on the air. Here's Alan, VK2COD.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, here we are in December, and now, of course, YOTA month. Many of us youngsters will become active on the air with YOTA as a suffix in the call signs. This event is aimed at my generation and is an excellent opportunity for clubs to get youngsters on the air and experience amateur radio. There will be many YOTA stations on air. Listen out for and work stations such as LT4YOTA from Argentina, OE0YOTA from Austria, SU8YOTA from Egypt, HL0YOTA from South Korea, just to name a few. Instead of reading out the huge list of stations, have a look at the list in the text edition of this week's WIA National News. You can QSL via Club Logs OQRS. The VK YOTA contest is now live. Listen out on the bands for our YOTAs on the air and get their call sign in your VK YOTA contest log. Good luck to all participants. Rumor has it a new call sign is on air now. Listen out for VK2 Santa. During the month of December, listen out for Center Station in VK2. Make a contact so you can have a direct RF line to the workshop in the North Pole. Or if you know a little harmonic that may want to speak with Santa, get him on the air to make contact. Although Santa can't win the contest, get that call sign in your log for the VK YOTA contest for your points. Looking for something to kick back over the school holidays? A free app named Space Flight Simulator by Team Curiosity is available for your Android and iOS phones. On the app, you can build any rocket you like from available parts and explore planets in our solar system as you wish. It can be found at the Google Play and the Apple Store. For WIA National News, I'm Alan, VK2COD in Sydney. Now back to you, Bruce.
Thanks, Alan. Worldwide Special Interest Groups Video. The North America's ham radio magazine, TWIAR, has shared a great little fun video clip. It's worth a view, even if it's probably been compiled for last weekend's CWWWDX contest. The link is in the text edition of this week's Ham News from Australia, best read at wia.org.au. It's by a German ham, Hammett DK4BE, who created this upbeat song with a lot of jargon we all should know quite well. Wiles, Field Day, Moon Bounce, and the like, and it's in English. I'm Bruce, VK3FFF from sunny Bendigo.
It's a date. And we're going to leave you with first set we've got for 2026 for February. In VK3, it's Ballarat Amateur Radio Group's Hamvention, Sunday, Feb 1. And in VK6, Parkfest at the Mandurah Bowling Club, February. And that happens at 9 a.m. We'll be back right here, same time, same fun channel, next week with WIA National News. I'm Editor Graham, VK4BB. Walk softly.
From Australia, this has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.